Bullshit, ist nichts mehr konfiguriert. Ach komm. Naja. So. The countdown is slowly ticking down. So. 30 seconds. So. I think everything is ready. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now. So, yeah, you ever always hear a beep noise? That's the timer. I don't know why I disabled the beep noise now. Well, who cares? Where were we? I had no time to prepare. Displaying user and comments. Yeah, that's a good idea to implement now. So, what do we have in this regard? We have the templates here, and we have this. We need to extend this a little bit. The most important thing we need to extend, since I want to implement it on data, I need to test something. Let's see. Django dictionaries. Hi. Dictionaries in templates. Okay. That's a little bit hard to deal with. Let's go in here like that. Yeah, that's more space. We have a nested dictionary. Okay. Get dynamic key. How do I get a dynamic key? You can does not allow this. I need to do my own filter. Okay. That's, yeah, kind of expected. So Django filters. No. Template. No. Yeah. So the first thing we want to do essentially is put the namespaces into our default templates. So what we are going to do is very easy, but let's see, in the settings it must B, we have installed apps, middleware, templates, preprocessors. Here, context processes. Okay. Text processors. Yeah, let's make a sub package Django init.py context processor. So this is a very simple app. Let's add documents.django. It will have, actually this would be interested to put up there, but let's actually do it. Template text xmp done init.py file already exists. Drop it here. Let's see if this still works. JSON LD script, cool. Next, we want here context processors .py namespaces context processor. We want a custom one. Context source. Okay, they get the request. So what is a context processor? Request object is the argument to be merged into. Okay. Request, it can be in any, because we actually don't care. But they do return a t.mapping from string into any. And we have a few things we are interested in. The first is activity_pub, which is from documents.namespaces activity_pub. And the second thing we want to do is custom filter, Django filter. In a template, how to create custom template text and filters. Custom template filters. And how do I make? I see. So essentially you can do that. Good. So let's rename it to JSON LD. Yeah, it already is a filter. Cool. Let's rename this to that. Is the filter JSON. The get has a value. We assume it's a mapping from t to any. It returns an any. Import typing is t again. Actually, it must go this way. And key is t dot is a string. So return value dot get key. Very, very simple filter. Dict get. Simple. Then the second thing is list get. In supports index. Key is int any not has rttr value get item. We assume key is not 0, otherwise we just return the value. Technically it's not entirely supported by this, but the interpreter doesn't care about type annotations, so we are just playing it safe here. I see mapping from string to any, not string integer, like that. So and is the filter def JSON LD type of value is a string key any return value dot get type. I said get. The same for JSON LD ID. Same for that. And I think we can merge those two. So JSON LD get, and this might either be an int or a string, and same here. So case 1, if is instance key int. If it's an integer, we assume it's a list. Not is instance value list tuple value is value plain value kleiner key return none return value key. So this is either a mapping from string to any, or it's a d dot sequence any. It's one of those two things, and we assume such. Otherwise, return value dot get key. If it's a list, value list tuple then this is correct. So this is a list, or it's a d dot tuple any. So done. Now we have a get function also for types, and we can now use this to essentially go in, make a block body and block. So if JSON LD type if this is a pub.person, I'm actually interested. Wouldn't it make sense? This is already shortened. Let's display the views again. This is pre-compacted. But what we can do is do raw data is gleich rendered. And just assume that whenever we use a dual view, yeah, it always renders the raw LD and and it gets compacted later. So we can pass both of them in by default. Like that. We can then use this like this. This is a user. So h1 tag. So I didn't look at the URLs for quite some while, so I need to check which one. Okay, the user ID is this. And users have this. Good. Go manage shell. No. From social.models import user, I think. Okay, maybe not like that. Yeah, user object first. Yeah, true objects dot ID or ID in this case. Yeah. Yeah. Git Django manage run server. Like that. This is a user. Cool. So JSON LD, yes. So what I am going to do now is include .json LD with Django. Actually, let's keep the context. Data is raw data. Put it here into this file. And how does it know that this is Django? ZFT is HTML Django. So I should add an editor config sometime, so this is automatically picked up. But let's wait. Let's do this next week. So we actually need to this. JSON, so data JSON LD get activity pub dot name. Let's see if this works that easy. Sadly not. Why not? So we have this LD object. It's an activity thing. And it has a name. Poor user, why? I didn't kill the user. So let's see. Models. No, I don't want the models. I actually want here. I want to know what the fuck is going on here. Let's do some old-fashioned print debugging. This should give us... I said it should give us info. But apparently it didn't. So... here we type a person. Have this feeling this should be none. Yeah, it is, because there's a very simple reason for that. I need to add this context processor. No. Documents.django. We will see. Yeah, have fun not being on the computer. Context processor namespaces. Let's put it down there. Reload it. And the name works. Cool. That was easy once you found out what the problem actually was. So types user.html. Let's do it like that. Include types user HTML with data equals data. Done. Put this here. Automatically add this load tag here. Done. H1. JSON LD type equals activity pub dot collection or data JSON LD type activity pub dot ordered collection. In this case, actually let's start with a node. Types node.html with data equals data. Node HTML. And what do we add for a node? What is a node? Collection view, show user, show output, show post. It's a renderer LD attributed to, and this would be the point where I would have started. I see. How would I deal with this? How would I deal with this? How would I deal with this? Because what I want to do in reality is have the full data shown here. Yeah. Okay, that's the problem. Okay. Yeah, how do I... what's the best way to explain the problem? The problem is that ideally I want to be here, show a node, something like that. So this should be showing a node. Not in this file maybe, but in this file. Let's look at how we want a node to be displayed. So what we want to have is something like username and then the message content. And maybe even an avatar here. That's what we want to have. Ideally. However, not all of our pages automatically load everything. So what we are actually getting is, in our minimal case, user ID, which is an URL to fetch additional data, as well as the message content and its ID. That's what we are essentially getting from our server, and we just assume that the client, which is interested in displaying it, can just load additional data as needed. And by that I mean in JavaScript. So my problem was essentially that Svelte didn't have a routing framework anymore, which satisfies these requirements. It should be a library. Why should it be a library? This allows full control on how the application is implemented, how the JavaScript code is inserted into the page. If it were a framework, it essentially would tell us do everything in JavaScript, which is the one thing I didn't want to do. So it should be an SPA. And the idea was essentially all text HTML, except maybe meta text should be rendered by JavaScript. But there is an application JSON renderer providing the data in the background. This was my essential idea. And which essentially meant that if you went on the page, this means that if you went to a page on Django, essentially your browser goes to Django, which then pre-renders the initial request. Which then goes in, renders a blank HTML page with meta data, which is then being used to write. So we have our SPA router, which then goes in and renders the HTML. Which the user can then see and interact with. This is the entire idea that I actually had when I started this project. The problem is, Svelte doesn't have such a routing framework anymore. So what I was now trying to do is essentially skip everything and let Django render everything, which has the problem. Initial idea. The problem is Svelte doesn't have a routing framework anymore. Svelte doesn't have a routing framework anymore. Or framework, I say, a library anymore, which leads me to following change in plans. Let Django render everything. The problem is here that I now need to think in advance which data is needed. So essentially my problem is I need to think in advance which data is actually needed. What was an optimization problem before is now an essential part to render the finished thing. So first change, I need to think in advance which data is actually needed before it was an optimization problem. So what do I mean by optimization problem? Essentially, by telling our builder everything everything we need to fetch everything we need, it essentially one batch request, which is the optimization. Here, I need to optimize this in advance, so I have the data to display later. So this changes the entire thought process. Now I need this to even display the data. And this is the general problem I have now. So, and I always need the same data. B, I now always need the same data, regardless if it's a local user or if it is a remote user. Why was this not a problem before? Essentially, this is a problem because local users have quick access time. So essentially I can show here in the views why this wasn't a problem. I could just do this. And the result here is very simple to explain. I can just do this and then push out the data later because it's a local post. So the JavaScript retrieves this ID, but then just go in and further fetches the author, which is essentially guaranteed to be a local one. So, and this is almost instant, like as you can see here, it's essentially two SQL requests in two separate two SQL queries in one per request. And if I wanted to optimize this, I could do it later anyway. I think it was fast enough. Now I can't do it anymore. Now I need this author name to be displayed, to be fetched immediately. So it converts what was initially an optimization problem into another, into I need this data now problem, which I wanted to prevent with this initial idea. Because by rendering the data in HTML, I can then issue additional requests as needed. Additional requests as needed to display the content that should be displayed. So, which I can't do anymore because essentially the entire thing now looks like this. And I must make sure I must either do the requests within the template, which I don't even know if the templates are fully capable of doing fully asynchronous workloads, which I'm not entirely sure. The only place where I am sure that Django is capable of doing asynchronous workloads is in the views and in the ORM. And to be honest, I can't see how this render command allows me to do asynchronous workloads, to be fully honest with you. So the problem is that that I can't put the additional requests here. So ideally, I would then say the template renderer would render does additional requests. However, since these requests go out, possibly go out to the internet, I want to do it asynchronously because I don't know how fast it is. So I need to be sure that Django HTML templates don't have this have this control flow, which is very essential in this period in Django, which is essentially means that we are switching between async IO. Django is switching between async IO and threads constantly. And I want to prevent this from happening essentially in what is in reality a recursive manner, because if I want to display the outbox of the user here, I might end up displaying a node of a remote user, of which I need to then itself fetch additional data for, so this might actually be slow. And to prevent this, I essentially want, where was I? Yep. I want essentially want to make sure that there is no blocked threads in any way, because if I do requests, outgoing requests here into async IO, I still have the blocked worker thread handling everything. So this moves here to ensure this is it is optimized. So this moves here essentially, and it stops being an optimization problem, which I can deal with later. This optimization problem is moved forward so much that essentially I need to think about it now instead of, oh shit, the application is slow, how do I make it faster later? And this makes it harder for me. So I think we need to scrap this idea too and go back to this initial idea. So what we did on Wednesday is then changes everything. So this is something I want to avoid. So I again have a problem, namely this. So the next solution I have here essentially is implement Spotlight. Where does this come from? This comes from what we did on Wednesday with this pages.ts. Implements, let's call it cheap. Pages.ts implements a cheap SPA router, and it does it together with turbolinks. So essentially we can abuse turbolinks to provide empty pages with our JSON LD preloaded payload baked into it. This ensures that the first request is always has always been done. The Django router implements the SPA routing indirectly, and it's not a real SPA. And what we also get for free is essentially what we get for free is, yeah, but it feels like one. So let's go with this solution. So let's remove this again. And now I deleted all my comments I did. Yeah. Well, back here, we can. What did we have to add again into the index.ts? Not ts, index.html. It has this thing we want to have the JSON LD. JSON LD display. It's actually very nice because, yeah. And how is the metadata handled? It is not right now. Okay. How do we want to handle the metadata? So what we are going to do for the metadata, since it is required in some how is the meta text added? Here. Okay. So since it's a dual view, we have Django iterate dict status. No, that's federated. Preview text in head. That's what we wanted. Something like that. How to use tags here. Description, meta name, content. Okay. Meta name content. Okay, so the next question here is how do I iterate over this? Okay, for key value data items. It doesn't matter in which order we are doing this, so meta ID is key, not ID, but name, content equals key value meta, like that. Cool. So what we have done here is this JSON LD now automatically renders the JSON LD script because it's the most important part of the page. Directly followed by that is the key val is the metadata, which is important for Google, and Discord for previewing stuff, which is now being prefetched by our Django system. And at the same time, we have this thing which essentially decides which JavaScript is to be loaded, and ID is app. So let's put in this div here. So let's add the pages. Move this here. Rename this to pages. And add a JSON LD page onto it. So const export default function JSON LD. We return async function. Const target. What is this target? This target is document.getElement by the app. We are going JSON LD index.ts. Actually delete this, put it here, rename it to index.ts. Yeah. And here we have a new page. JSON LD, which implements JSON LD. Done. Like that. And now we can add a JSON page.svelte, like that. Import page from locally page svelte. This new page, which has a target, and we can now destroy the app shortly before hiding it. h1 svelte, and since we are using this again, let's add something here. We want main yarn run watch like that. Reload. It's empty again. But we should have this. It's actually why it's empty. Why is it empty? Maybe it has not been. Okay. So we have this matter. This is not exactly what it. Okay. First mistake here. It should be JSON LD dash display. So JSON LD dash display. And the matter is displayed incorrectly. Like that. And suddenly it works. Let's see how well. Loads those bundles. The response, this should be a classic Svelte application. And this one, let's look at the inspector. We have this thing and we are searching for a script type application LD plus JSON. So how do we find it? So what we want is we want to find current JSON LD query selector. We want to have a query selector. This, for simplicity, will be a script with a type application LD plus JSON. And if current JSON LD is null, we can just return an empty file like that. Otherwise, json.parse, so JSON LD source, json.parse current JSON LD dot text content, and we want to trim it. And now script slang equals TypeScript, because TypeScript is cool. Export let JSON document JSON LD document equals, which is any. Actually, we're not in like that. JSON dot stringify JSON LD document 04. I think it was. Let's put it into a pre. Rendered by Svelte. Undefined. Cool. Why? Because we didn't pass it through. So this needs to have a prop. And this prop needs to have JSON LD document. Actually, let's call this doc. JSON LD document. Like that. And now we have this. Let's return the indents, remove them. Cool. So this has been rendered by Svelte, which means this has been copied from the head tag, which is nice. Because we can now use this to first add Axios. So we added Axios now because this makes sure that we can access additional things from the page. And pub object.svelte. So this is the base thing, and what we want to do is script lang equals ts, and besides using lang ts, we want it to be in the context of the module. You will see soon why. So, and we want a standard script. So const type map equals, it is a map between a string and any, because I still didn't find out how to type this, to type Svelte components. So we have a new map. Export let's JSON LD document is still an any. And what we want to do is actually we want to dynamically display stuff. So components, Svelte component, bind this to component, and at the same time document equals JSON LD document. Let's rename this to document first, so we can have an easier time. Like that. If component is not null. If it is null. Special case. We just print out this thing. The second thing we don't know is Svelte component must have this attribute. Why doesn't it? I see. Okay. This is called document now. And the first thing we will notice, is that document may be null or document may be undefined. In which case we return null, otherwise we need to check if the component, the document has a then. So this is the next thing we want to check. If the document does have a then we want a placeholder. So then it's a placeholder. Let's see if, no, it doesn't. Let's put in then a null now, so it's happy, because then I know this part or not. Import placeholder from local placeholder.svelte. It's a placeholder. Otherwise, type map.get document.id. So actually type, we always want to have a type is attached to it, like that, or unknown, or we force it to be null. Looks complicated, so the first case is if it's null or undefined, we just set it to this. If it's unknown, we also display this. Hopefully we will never need it. And otherwise, the first thing we are checking if it's a placeholder. So if it's an available, we display a placeholder. So script lang equals TypeScript. So export let document, which is a promise like of any, and we want an await block on document. Let's add a loading, we can make it nice later. Then fetched document, which we can then import activity pub object from activity pub object dot svelte, like that. Activity pub object document is fetched document, like this, and debug something went wrong. So that's essentially how this will work. And we can now go in and say user.svelte script lang is TypeScript, export let document is any, h1 document.name, and then activity pub object set user require user.svelte.default. Of course it can't find a require. Why can't you find require? Type script type mission require. Let's deal with it later. Oh yeah, page doesn't know anything about that. Activity pub object export let JSON ID document eddy activity pub object document is JSON ID document. Let's see what happens. Now it's empty. Why it's empty? Because of reasons. So I swear to God, I'm going to use Chrome. What's the URL? This one. Excuse me. Yeah, Chrome's DevTools is far better. It works more reliable, it has more features. Which is sad, to be honest. It used to be that I preferred Firefox DevTools, but now Chrome's DevTools work far better. Especially if you're working with source maps. Then Chrome just does magic. Let's see. Negotiation. So MIME negotiate. Yeah, and you can make this smaller too. Thank you. So I want to know what is sending me. It is sending this wonderful accept thing, and mime.split, and it should be 2. So there is, I see, signed exchange. I see. So whatever signed exchange is, there must be a 2 here. Okay. And this isn't doing that because, no, not run server, please. I want shell. Split on semicolon. I want 2. Okay, 1. So like that, and suddenly it loads. So it's a person. Okay, that's a good reason. So this is a person. And still nothing. And now you will see that in theory it often knows. In this case it doesn't, but it's not that problematic. Document context, I see. So I need to use the uncompacted form, which I can certainly do. I would load them anyway. So script so JSON ID script with an element ID. I can just do this. Status should be equivalent. Now it looks like that. Cool. And now I want to know this document is this. Is it null? We will see soon by adding the console drawer. Let's make it a little bit smaller. So no, that's too small even for me. Cool. It's not overly large at all. Ah, here I can make it larger like that. And now I want to know if document is null and document is undefined, false, in which case is document.then an object. It is also false. Type map dot get document type. Okay, what is type map? Okay, yeah. Makes sense. So this must be pub const ns. I already have a namespaces module, so this makes it easier, which is, I delete this one. So I can just go in and drop it here. And as person, let's reload it. Let's see. Cool, it's undefined, which is also understandable. So let's put it somewhere else. Let's put it here. Let's export it. Namespace like this. Namespace is a constant. Yeah. And then the user can just namespace name. Excuse me. What is this? Did I forget to save this? Why? Okay, not a problem. Then let's put it into its own file, easy enough, and hope that this fixes the problem. Export const person equals namespace person from ms name string returns a string return very simple namespace name as person name, which is nice because then I can just get rid of all of that and use person as a constant. Don't need that anymore. And can just use name as a constant from AP. Simple. Let's see what happens if I reload. It renders my name. Cool. So we are displaying a user now. Next step is we want to display additional stuff. Let's display the outbox. If this is a string, sometimes it might not have a type. So let's make a function because this might become too complex. Find component document is any. This ensures reactivity. First thing is discard clause if return null. Done. If document type of document.then is an object, in which case it's a placeholder, and the placeholder will deal with all of that. If document type is undefined, but then we have two cases. If document ID is not undefined, then it is fetch remote. Then we want to return fetch remote. Import fetch remote from fetch remote. And otherwise we return null if doc type of document is a string, in which case we also run fetch remote, otherwise type map.get document type, or we don't know what it is. So let's use doc instead. Document doc like that, and find components. Find component using the document. So this is easier to read now. Now about fetch remote. Which is either a string or it is something that has an ID thing, which is a string. So URL is document. Type of document is a string, in which case we want the document, otherwise we want document ID. And then if don't okay const with protocol is this window.location.protocol. What is this actually? Window.location.protocol. I see. Like that. URL. What are we doing now? The important part here is that we want to redirect requests to outgoing, to remote servers over our Django application, because this one can then batch some requests for us and give us more interesting data to look at. For now, however, we want the rewritten URL. And to do that, we need to detect if it's running locally, so we don't need it, or if it's running remotely. And what I'm going to write now is doing that. So if it starts with host with protocol, in which case, or URL.starts with slash. In both of these cases, we just want to use the URL, and otherwise, what do you mean? What do you mean? Ah, yeah. Didn't listen that much about. Encode URI component URL. And from that, CIOS, we now want to use our HTTP client. Promise is axios.get rewritten URL, and let's make it async for a second, because then we can await it. Fetch its data property, and if this crashes, activity pub object document is promise. So, and if promise crashes, then we get the error shown in our placeholders, so all is well. But we want to add a small header. Skip compacting, and we want to set it to true. And now we need to edit our views to not compacted. So request.headers skip compacting false equals to true. It's strings because we are dealing with raw data here. Where was it again? In fetch remote skip compacting. Let's make it like that. Here skip is true. Compacted data is raw. We compacted anyway, so let's else compacted equals rendered. So we can now look at this head tag. We want to see the outbox. So outbox here is an activity pub object. Document equals document outbox done. Where does outbox come from? Here, and outbox is this. So this has been rendered again, and this returned that, but it did. Okay, this is not entirely expected. So what it did is we got this output, and it followed our headers. We had this xgif compacting, which made it look like that. So cool. It just doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Let's follow what we have here. We have find component. Should have been a placeholder. Let's add some helpful comments in there. This is an activity pub object. This is a fetch remote. This is page. We know that this works. This is a placeholder. and this is a user. So this has just been rendered. So we should get, of course not. Okay. Span style equals display none. Span placeholder. Fetch remote doesn't need it, but this needs to be a fetch remote. This needs to be an activity pub object. Reload this shit. So okay, I have a feeling. Okay, oh, wait. Why is this not an console.log doc? This should have been, yeah, store as a global variable temp1 dot then type of okay, derp function. Cool, it now loads this. So we have total items first and last. Let's export this to collection.svelte. So let's remove this first, because we now know that it does work. So in the placeholder, we don't need it for now. We care about this, and in fact, const items equals from ns. First, I think it is, yeah, first is this, last is, this looks like a bug. Oh. Current page, let current page be document from ns first. So we want to activity pub object document is current page. Actually, we want a little bit more, but let's say this is enough for now. Yeah, this is not even implicitly in any type. And this is not promised like this is actually in any. So this should display as ordered collection, and we wanted to have first current page, just to be sure. Page is current page. Object is this. I see. Ah, dump from an S person from an S the collection, in which case we want collections Welt. Yeah. And within it we have items. Interestingly, we do care about its navigation. So what are we going to do? We are just saying we do know that this is a collection page. Yes, so ref equals, yeah, not now. First collection page dot svelte. We indeed know that it must be a collection page, but we don't know that now. Yeah, but still, let's deal with it later. Same procedure here, but we have a thing called items. So each item is items. Each activity pub object document is item. Actually, each items is items, like that. This can be empty. Now let's register it. Ordered collection page. Collection page dot svelte. We don't need person anymore. That's warnings. Yeah, I see where they come from. From ns name. From ns outbox. One warning. Yeah, okay. Cool. This is exactly what I want. So create.svelte. We deal with this the same way as anything else, except that we can essentially assume that a create has a actor and it has an object, which we are in this case interested in. So create.svelte, and now we have the test post node.svelte HTML. Actually, let's copy the create. HTML document from NS content. So, yeah. Cool. And we just displayed the test post. And like that, we can soon display posts from other users, which we will do next time. So I would say it was a successful stream. We accomplished. We displayed a user. We displayed the outbox. And if I now go in and want to display the post, let's make it. Let's put it all. Let's make it like that. Link. Let's set a BR. So there's this document at ID. Okay. Yeah, we have this. Now this link doesn't work fully as expected. If I click here, I'm in post, but nothing happened. So why not? Log current JSON ID. I want to know what went wrong here. Where's our... Oh, I closed the Chrome. Cool. F12. This was the Chrome. So when I click on link now, it got the same data, which is not what I wanted. Via turbo. Let's make it a lot smaller. Reference, visit, frame, action. Frames, events, attributes, events. So how does pages manage page loads on render? Okay. So essentially render the fresh version. on before rendering. Interesting. What the fuck is more of DOM? I see. Displaying progress. Don't want that either. This submit start, redirecting after form submission. Streaming after form submission. Preload links into a cache. So from what I gather, let's go here. UI src pages.ts. On page load link. This is getting loaded. What is the state of this? As a second. Okay. So can I put an attribute in there? Reference attribute. Track. Stream submits with. Okay. Action turbo frame. When it changes, I see. So I want to give it an ID. Should be enough. Give this thing a document. It has one now. Oh, yeah. Let's remove the debugger for now. That. Set the link. It adds the second one. Okay. Which is not what I want. So the trick I'm going to apply is that once this index.ts sees it, JSON ld.remove. It removes itself, fixing the bug. Like that. And if I have the user do this, what was that? Okay. Clicking there again causes the bug. Okay. Let's render this twice. Let's see what happens if we render this twice. Document. And we only care about this from document. So doc from documents, and it has a nice side effect because we can now just go in and use raw data here, so the uncompacted data, which means we can now dual view yeah, that. This looks nice. We have this script thing. When we link to post, do we get a new script? Yes. Link there again. It's there again, and we don't need to delete it anymore. Cool. So we can just go in and keep this. Press F5. Go back to our user. And this works now. Cool. I think I can stop here now. We displayed the post. We displayed the user. We can technically even display its outbox. Maybe. Yeah. We can even display its outbox. And yeah, now just deal with the fetch remote thing that I kept here for some unexplainable reason. And yeah. So next week I will go and display stuff from other Mastodon pages. Because essentially we are here, we are ready to display Mastodon posts from other pages now. Not only our own. I will show you how this will look like. So I think this was a very successful stream. And I'm gonna wrap it up now. Bye.